The Howl of the Week. If you can still howl, then you can still fight. Greetings adventurers, I'm Lorne, and welcome to my review of Danjan ni Dai o Motomeru no wa Machigateru ka Gaidan Sword Oratoria. Or, as you and I probably know it as, is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon on the side? Sword Oratoria, danmachi, Sword Oratoria. Very long name, and I probably butchered the Japanese, but that's the best I got. I apologize. Now, Howl of the Week, which I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, is a phrase that pops up a lot in this volume centered around Bate's character, which, quite frankly, I enjoyed quite a bit, and it's among my top 3 entries into the whole Sword Oratoria series as a whole, right up there with Volume 6, which I also have up here, which is dedicated to the Amazon twins. I really find myself gravitating towards these character-focused entries in the Sword Oratoria series. I do really appreciate all the characters that Omori Sensei has made, so this is a great opportunity for him to explore the characters, explain their past, because there are a lot of characters in his danmachi universe, and I really did enjoy both these stories, both Volume 6, which of course you've probably seen in my earlier review, and of course Volume 8, which I'll be talking about, centered around Bate. The first part of this review is going to be a general review of the story. I'm not going to spoil anything, so if you haven't picked up Volume 8 yet, you're safe to go on hearing my opinions in general on the volume as a whole. And then towards the latter half of this video, I'll be going over specific scenes that I enjoy and over the general plot that happens in Volume 8 as a whole too. So before I do start the spoiler discussion part of this video, I will leave a timestamp for you to skip that so you can go towards the end of the video and avoid all those spoilers. But I am curious if you guys even think a general review of the volume is even necessary, because if you're in this deep into Sword Oratoria, I assume that you're a big fan of the danmachi franchise, because there are some people that just read the main series, don't really watch or read Sword Oratoria, and I can understand that. But if you're this deep in the Sword Oratoria already, I find it hard to believe that you're wanting to read the review or watch the review before going into this book. That's just my opinion, but I'm curious to see what you guys think about just foregoing the general review and just going straight into spoiler talk stuff, but I'll leave that for you guys to decide. So, Sword Oratoria Volume 8. It's written by Fujino Omori, illustrated by Kiyotaka Haimura, and the original character design is of course credited to Suzuhito Yasuda, and this is being published by Yen Press, and I'm going to start mentioning the people that actually translate the works. So this one is translated by Liv Sommerlot. I really do appreciate all the hard work that goes into translating these novels. Japanese is not an easy language to learn. I've dabbled in it myself quite a few times, but I haven't made that hard commitment quite yet, so translations are the way for me to consume this content that originates in Japan, and I am very, very grateful to all the translators that work on all these light novels, manga, anime, what have you, games, anything that comes from Japan. I appreciate you guys, the translators. And again, I assume that you guys have read the content in volumes 1 through 7, otherwise you wouldn't even be checking out this volume 8 review. But volume 8 opens with a flashback towards the end of volume 7, where Loki Familia is in a dire state because they had to escape Gnosis and then go back for their allies that they had to leave behind when they were regrouping together. And when they do find their fallen allies, pretty much all of them are dead, slaughtered even. And Bate ends up actually laughing in their faces, insulting them. And that just brings their familia into a mindset where Bate is basically the enemy. And so we start this volume out with everyone in Loki Familia basically looking at Bate like an antagonist and avoiding him. And him going off on his own and doing his own thing. And he meets a character in Amazon that's really fun. And once you do read this volume, I think you'll enjoy her quite a lot. But as Bate goes on his adventure with this Amazon girl, he starts being reminded of his past, and it's quite the dark past. It really does make you feel for him as a character. And for those of you that did not like Bate initially from the anime, from reading the previous light novels, because he's so rambunctious, he's so aggressive, he's always insulting people, there is a reason behind that, and I kind of knew or had a guess as to what it was, and I was pretty much spot on what happened, but I did not think his past would be so depressing. Like, you really get the character, you really get why he thinks the way he does, why he acts the way he does, and this volume really does make you feel for him. So I commend Omori Sensei for making me feel and appreciate the character that is Bait Loga, and he does it again. Like, I love the Amazon twins even more from Volume 6. He does it again with Volume 8, and I can't wait for more entries into Sword of Oratoria, explaining more stuff about the other Loki Familia members. I know Volume 9 is going to go into Aiza's past, so I can't wait for that. But again, let's go back into Volume 8. Like I mentioned earlier, he hangs out with an Amazon in this novel, and their character interactions are really hilarious. That's what makes the bulk of the comedy in this novel, and just reading any scene with them together is really funny because Bait is out of his element. He doesn't know how to react because the Amazon is really aggressive towards Bait, and he really can't be too aggressive back at her because for reasons that you'll laugh at in the novel when you read it yourself. And as for how this entry into the Sword of Oratoria series affects the overarching storyline in Sword of Oratoria as a whole, it doesn't affect it quite too much because the focus really is on Bait and his character and his past. He really grows a lot in this novel, and I can't wait to see his interactions with Loki Familia and other people in novels past this. But in general, the Volume 8 doesn't advance the story too far as to how regards Sword of Oratoria is and what Sword of Oratoria is leading up to, because I'll discuss elements from the previous volumes. Like, we know about Ravis, we know about the evils, Gnosis, Thanatos, the god down there, helping the evils. But as far as Volume 8 goes, it doesn't go too far as to advance the plot too far. But again, this is a novel that really focuses on Bait as a character and his growth and his past, and explains that very well. And it advances the plot just enough for you to wonder what's going to happen next, especially with all the characters involved in this novel. And a common criticism I have for the Sword of Oratoria series as a whole is that you don't really feel too much tension there as far as the story goes, because this is happening behind the main series timeline. So we know that the majority of Loki Familia's characters aren't going to die, so it's not like, oh no, someone's in danger of dying. We know they're going to make it out through the end of the day. And even though danmachi itself is a shonen series in spirit, like, we know Belle's not going to die, or at least not until the end at the very least, so. But there is that element of tension still being felt in the main series because Belle himself is a lower level adventurer, especially when it comes being compared to the people in Loki Familia, because Loki Familia is one of the top 2 familias in Orario. So there has to be a way for you to feel tension, to be a bit more invested into the stories themselves. And at the climactic fight at the very end of this novel, I do feel that tension, because you really do feel that Bait is struggling, and then you also are wondering what's happening to the other characters in this volume. So I do feel that tension is there. I like this volume a lot more than Volume 7, but that might just be because I like how it's more character focused as regards to plot focus, because I think learning more about the characters in Loki Familia is what Sword of Oratoria's strength is as a series. And again, Fujino Omori is a great author when it comes to being able to expand on his characters and really tell us their stories and their past, and just being able to develop them as the story keeps going on as a whole. And as I close this general review, let me just talk about the art, because the art has to be mentioned. The illustrator Haimura-san makes really lovely illustrations for this. I love the way they draw Bait in this novel, and the color illustrations, especially in the front of this novel, are beautiful. And they're just among my favorite illustrations in Sword of Oratoria, I think, because Bait is really well drawn as a character, and Lena here in the front is really cute. But overall, I really enjoyed this entry into the Sword of Oratoria series. I really like Bait as a character more. It really makes you feel for him as a character, knowing more about his past, how he thinks about things, and seeing him develop in this story, as well as the introduction of a character in Lena here. And I can't wait to see more Bait, and with his new mindset and his familia's new understanding of Bait in this novel and the entries moving forward. Volume 8 really is one of the standout entries into the Sword of Oratoria series, and I can't wait to see more of our Wolfie boy. So now I will go ahead into spoiler territory, so if you have not yet read Volume 8, I suggest you click in the timestamp I'll provide in the description below to skip to the end of this video, but I will now start discussing specific scenes that I think are really worth talking about in this entry. Okay, now let's just talk about my boy Bait Loga's past, because damn, My gosh, Bates, I thought you would have a dark past, but holy crap. To be raised outside of Orario with this animal, this werewolf tribe, and basically everyone he loved, his entire tribe, massacred by this creature. And this creature is a Lord of the Plains, and I think this is like the first mention we got. There's something called the Three Great Frontiers. I believe it's like the Valley of Dragons is where this monster is from. That's one of the Three Great Frontiers. The dungeon is another one, and I'm not sure if we had this term before, but I wonder what the third is if we haven't heard this term yet. But that was something I thought was an interesting thing to note as Omori was describing Bate's past here. But holy crap, Bate. Like, it's just depressing for Bate in his past, because we see his entire tribe get massacred, and that's where he gets that scar, and then he gets a tattoo over the scar. And that's almost like a way of trying to hide from his past. And as we can see throughout the volume, he can't really hide from his past. He keeps feeling that pain on his tattoo, that fang, as we call it, as it's mentioned all the time. Because his fang is his past, and he bears that with him. Like, he makes fun of weakness, but we see throughout this volume that what he hates the most was his own weakness. It's through being weak, seeing those things get away from him because they were weak, because he wasn't strong enough to protect them. And that's another thing that happens in Bate's past. Like, he's trying to be strong to protect his family, to protect that childhood friend that he fell in love with, and they're all dead. And he blames himself because he wasn't strong enough, because he was weak. And then later on, he goes into Orario, joins Vidar Familia, and a new name, a new familia, a new god. And it's from Norse mythology, and that's why we see Loki mention later that she knew Vidar, which is interesting, because Loki's also a Norse god. So it's cool to see Omori Sensei really show that the gods that he borrows from different mythologies kind of know each other, especially more so if they're from the same kind of mythology. So that was an interesting thing to note. But holy crap, and then Bates falls in love with his vice captain in Vidar Familia, and when he's finally strong enough to defeat the Lord of the Plains, he leaves Orario, defeats it, and then comes back, and she's dead. And then Bate goes on a rampage. He's super depressed, and he mentions that he basically he was insulting them and berating them, almost like he was trying to get them to never go into the dungeon. Like, he's basically saying, you guys are weak, don't go into the dungeon if you can't handle this stuff. And that was basically almost like a scare tactic, like, you guys can't go to the dungeon, you can't handle this type of stuff, which is really Bates' character. Like, he talks down on people, he keeps calling them weak because he wants them to be stronger. And if you are weak, if you don't have that resolve to become stronger, you have no business being down here. Oh, Bate. He's losing everyone he loves. It's just so depressing. Then that's when he meets Loki Familia, of course. That's when he meets Eyes. And this was a very interesting topic because he joins Loki Familia when he's age 16. Eyes is there as she's 10. So we know that Bate likes Eyes in a romantic sense. And then when I realize when Bate joined and the age that Eyes was when he joined, it's really weird for him to, at least I think, it's kind of little weird that he's likes Eyes romantically when he was first introduced to her as a kid, and he was 16, almost an adult at that point. So it's kind of strange how he has those romantic feelings for Eyes. I mean, come on, Bate, there's a new character that likes you here. Lena likes you, and I really like Lena's character, the Amazon, in here. Because it really throws Bate for a loop, because he doesn't know what to do. Like, at first, he pushes her away, but she keeps coming back because she's in love with Bate. And it's really funny. And anytime, he tries to beat her away, kick her in the stomach, it's like, ooh, I might be pregnant. And those are just really funny comedic scenes, even though it's someone being hurt. But this is that kind of slapstick comedy. And it kind of works because these are adventurers and they're stronger than normal people. So a kick to the gut isn't going to kill someone. Especially even if it's Bate's power level being level 6 and Lena being level 2. And then she's kind of into that pain of beating her up, and that's why he stops. Like, I can't even push her away aggressively. It's not working, and he's out of his wits' end what to do with Lana, so he just kind of keeps her around anyway, because he can't get her away, even if he talks down to her. Like when they're in the dungeon, during that dungeon date, you can see that Bates like insulting her, and then she sees through Bates' facade. He sees through his words. He knows what he's actually doing. He's trying to encourage people, like, because you're weak, you need to be stronger, and if you can't get stronger, then leave. And he sees that, and that reminds him of Line, because I can't forget about her, because she died in Volume 7, unfortunately, and she sees through Fate's words and knows what he really means, and Lana does the same thing here. And let me just go back to Eyes for a little bit in this entry. I know Eyes gets a lot of flack because she's emotionless, but there is a reason behind that, I do believe. But you really do, even though she's like a side character in this volume because it's focused around Bates, you do see Eyes show development as a character here, because when no one else would, Eyes is the one that follows Bates when everyone like hates him. Like, Eyes has a reason to believe that there is a reason behind why Bate is the way he is. Of course, Eyes is the one that was with Line and Bate during that moment in Gnosis when Bate was insulting everybody. And Eyes was about to slap Bate because, like, Bate, that's not okay. And Eyes, of all people, had an emotional response and knew that she needed to, like, slap Bate because she was angry. She was frustrated at what Bate was doing. And then Bate, of course, mutters something up under his breath, and that stops Eyes, and that's what makes her follow Bate into the Flaming Wasp. And there's a comedic scene there as well, because Bate is just there like, Eyes, why are you here? You're finally showing interest in someone? And like, that's true. Eyes doesn't normally show much interest in people in general, and then she's even asking Bate about why he does the things he does, why he says the things he says. So we do see Eyes really start to develop as a character ever so slowly throughout this series. And we know Volume 9 is going to be about Eyes' past, so I do believe we're going to see a lot more of Eyes in the coming future when Volume 9 of Oratoria releases on June 18th, I believe. And one thing that I really like that Omori Sensei does with the Oratoria series is really expand on the events that happen in the main series. Like, we know in Volume 7 of the main series, that is the destruction of Ishtar Familia by Freya Familia. And we see the after effects of that, especially here in Volume 8, where all the Ishtar Familia Amazons no longer have that Familia, so we see them scatter and join different Familias. We know Aisha goes to Hermes Familia, and so on and so forth. And we do see a bit of Aisha in this novel as well. She is a fun character. She is a very motherly character, and you really do see that she cares for all the Amazons because of what Ishtar did to the Amazons and how she treated them, and basically made the Amazons do whatever she wanted. Like, I don't think the Amazons ever thought they had a chance against Freya Familia to begin with. And then you see the after effects of what happened because Ishtar had dealings with the evils, and now they're all targets by Valletta here. And let me talk about Valletta, because I like her more as a villain than Ravis, because Ravis is really introduced as this mysterious character, and we really don't know too much about her. 8 volumes in, we don't know too much about Ravis, but with Valletta, we know she has a vendetta against Finn because they encountered each other before, and the exchange between Finn and Valletta in Volume 7 was really entertaining, and here you can really see Valletta is just a scumbag of a person, mutilating corpses, taunting everyone, taunting Bate a lot here, and she's an idiot. Thinking that she can even take on Bate, because even with her pretty crazy magic, like, her magic is super powerful if she's able to prepare it beforehand. As we can see, it basically nerfed all of Bate's abilities, and it's not until he is able to go ahead and unleash what he's been hiding away for so long, his magic, Hati, which is another term in Norse mythology. Thank you, Omori Sensei, for incorporating that. And his magic, Hati, is like 4 different flames, an enchantment spell upon his fist and legs, and it basically works the same way as his boots, except this is like the origin of that power. It's his actual magic, being able to absorb magic, and with the added bonus of whenever the more he gets hurt, the stronger it is. So, and he gets hurt a lot here in that final fight against Valletta. And then with that pillar of flame that appears, bursting open the ceiling so the moon can come down, and then Valletta was just done right there. There was no hope coming back from that at all. And it is sad to see Valletta go. But that's a funny thing to say. Sad to see Valletta go when she was a scumbag of a character. But I really do hope we see more of Ravis in the future, because she is an interesting villain, but we haven't seen her do too many things besides make fun of eyes, have this weird thing with Aria. We don't know what that is quite yet. And it's just really annoying seeing her taunt eyes and everyone, and we don't know too much about her quite yet. And Valletta was introduced in Volume 7, and she's already done in Volume 8, so hopefully we see more of Ravis. And Thanatos as well. He had a brief scene here. Valletta was actually thinking that Thanatos was going to help her somehow, like maybe send Ravis up, maybe bring one of those spirits, or demi-spirits, up to help her, but that never came, so I wonder what Thanatos is really doing down there with Ravis. And that's another plot point that was brought up in this volume. There are 7 crystal fetuses left, those same crystal fetuses that are used to make those demi-spirits, like the demi-spirit the Loki Familia fought in Volume 4, the demi-spirit that Gareth and the Amazon twins fought at the end of Volume 7. There are at least 7 more of those fetuses left, so we're probably going to see them at some point. It would be crazy to see all of them come out at the same time in Oratoria, because that is the end goal of the evils, is to destroy Oratoria, disrupt the order. So if we do see something like that, like all 7 spirits going off at the same time, that's not going to be a good thing, because it took all of Loki Familia's best efforts to defeat that first one. And then with the Amazon twins being new level 6s, and with Gareth and Tiona using her magic, they're able to defeat the second one in Volume 7. But if 7 of them appear at the same time, they're going to need a lot of help. Maybe that's when Belle comes in, is help with defeating the demi-spirits. But currently in the light novels, as far as I know, the ones that are published so far in English, Belle is only level 4, and that's nowhere near strong enough to help a Lucky Familia here. So that's another thing with Sword Oratoria. We get to see the problems that higher level adventurers have here. Belle is still working his way up, and we can see what he has to work his way up to. So that's going to be really, really interesting as far as the main series grows and goes on. And one minor detail, we know that the evils hired assassins to use those curse weapons to basically kill all the Amazons, because they might have that key that has access to Gnosis. And by the way, we never really got a resolution about those keys. Like, a big part of this volume was, the big key point to the plot of this volume is about those keys. Like, Finn isn't wanting to investigate Ishtar Familia, the remains of it, and ask for where that key might be. And then Valletta goes up and tries to kill all the Ishtar Familia members, former Ishtar Familia members, so no one knows where that key is. And of course, Valletta herself should have had a key, and we still don't know where the Ishtar Familia key is. So there's 2 keys that we know of that just, we don't know where they are. They weren't mentioned at the end of the volume, even though that was like a key point to the plot of Volume 8. I don't mind that too much, because to me, Volume 8 was more about bait than the overall plot in the story. And from what the main series says, even during the Xenos arc, they still don't have one of those keys. So I assume both those keys are still missing, or they somehow made their way back down anyway. Maybe that's what Thanatos was doing under Valletta's back when Valletta thought Thanatos had her back. But back to the assassins that the evils hired here. This is just a minor detail I think is interesting. They're from Segment Familia, which is an assassin familia outside of Orario. And I wonder if that's the same familia that Chloe Lolo used to belong to, the cat girl that now works at the Benevolent Mistress. I wonder if that's the same one she used to belong to. Like, I quickly skimmed through episode reviews light novel after I saw Segment Familia, but I never saw that name come up. But maybe I might have skipped it. But that is interesting if she was from that same familia. But she had to be one of the higher level ones, because in the book here, it was mentioned that the ones that the evils hired were no greater than level 3, and we know that Chloe is level 4. And there were some interesting things that Omori Sensei wrote into the afterword here. It's said that G.A. Bunko, his publisher, actually proposed the idea of a side series, and that's how we got Sword Oratoria. But he said that they only had like the outline for what Aiza's past was and what Finn's past was, and not really anyone else. So when his publisher approached him with a side series, Omori Sensei's initial thought was, shit, I gotta think of some more stuff. And I think he did a really good job with that, because I really like those character-centric novels. Volume 6, Volume 8, can't wait for Volume 9 with eyes. So, good job, Omori Sensei. You're doing a good job planning out your characters here, even if you didn't initially have an outline in your head when you made Danmachi, the series as a whole. And like how the editors stopped Omori Sensei from putting Bell into Volume 7, they also made sure that Lena did not die in this volume. Now, some people might not like that fake death that happened to Lena here, but I myself think that was a good decision not to have Lena die, because enough people have died in Bates' life. He needs someone that accepts him for who he is and is actually attracted to him, because I think that's gonna build his character a bit more, and it's more interesting that Lena is alive than she is dead, because it doesn't do much for the character of Bate for Lena to die here, because so many people have already died before him. It doesn't introduce anything new to his character, like, yep, another death, oh well. But now that Lena is still alive, it allows for more opportunity for more scenes between the two, and maybe he might start being attracted to Lena, but at least we'll get those comedic scenes between the two, because at the very end of this volume, it's really funny, because Lucky Familia, of course, overhears, oh my gosh, I didn't even mention those quotes yet, that one quote, when Bate is being tricked by Loki and Eyes into, like, spilling out his actual thoughts, not knowing that Lucky Familia was listening. But Bate basically says, I don't want anyone to cry anymore, and that part right there is a big development on his character, because he's like finally accepting why he is the way he is. He's finally accepting his scar, his fang. He's accepting that, and now that Lucky Familia knows about that, they can accept him more too. And now they're not going to take him as seriously anymore when he insults everyone. Like, I know what you're actually getting at, Bate. I know what you're trying to say here. So. And now those developments are also going to be interesting in the future as well. And of course with Lena. And that scene with Bate kicking Lena in the stomach. And everyone's like, what the heck, Bate? And then Tiona's trying to help her up. And Lena's just like, oh, that's great. That felt great. I'm like, And Tiona's just freaked out. Like, what the hell? Oh, but man, I hope there's more scenes like that in the future, because I love the introduction of Lena. It really adds a new element to Bates' character. And we got that really cute moment when because during those 2 days that Bate thought Lena was dead, he got her those flowers to put on her grave, the same flowers that she mentioned she liked during their little date. So I thought that was a really cute moment, and we got a really cute illustration out of that as well. So can't wait to see more Lena and Bate in the future. And guys, as much as I don't like how JC staff adapted Sword of Oratoria, the first season, volumes 1 through 4, I really think they did a bad job of showing the tension that's in that series, highlighting the correct moments, making things feel impactful, like with that. You don't really feel anything with that Udeus fight in the anime, because it seems like it only lasted 5 minutes there, when in actuality it lasted like for hours. It was an agonizing and painstaking effort. There are other scenes there, like the otter fight, which really wasn't much of anything in the anime, when it was so much more in the novel itself. But I couldn't help but wanting to see, like, with Volume 8 especially, I'm like, I need to see this animated, especially with Bates' voice actor, Okamoto, I believe is his name, who also voice acts Bakugo from My Hero Academia, and Accelerator from Index. Like, I really want to see Volume 8 animated, because, oh my gosh, it would make so many people like Bates more, I believe, and just like the scenes of his past, with the voice acting, especially against Fleta, and then especially with his outburst when he finally admits that he doesn't want his fellow family members to die. It's just, it would be so much more in animated form. Like I can just picture it now with like him fighting, and then Finn and Riveria talking about Bates' character, and then with the music going on and the rain, and then his magic, and then I would love to see this animated, but it needs to be done correctly. I hope if they do a Sword of Oratoria Season 2 that they really do take their time on it and adapt it properly. But man, it would be such a great thing to see in animated form. I think if Sword of Oratoria did get a second season, I'd probably vote Bates for Best Boy, because oh man, he deserves it from all the stuff that happened to him in the past. Like, oh, you really feel for him here. But guys, enough of me gushing about wanting an anime for this novel. What were your favorite scenes in this book? Did you have any particular highlight ones? Did you enjoy the relationship between Elena and Bate and how Bate grows as a character here? Did you enjoy the tale of his past? Does this make you like Bate more as a character if you didn't like him before? But again, guys, I really did enjoy Volume 8 and how we learn about Bate as a character and how he grows, and I can't wait to see the next installment with Volume 9 being about Eyes, releasing on June 18th. But man, I really want to see this animated now, based off this novel. It's just, oh. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video or want to see more content like this, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to my channel to see more. If you want to follow up on what I'm doing, go ahead and follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. And as always, continue enjoying your time adventuring in Oratoria and the dungeon. This is Lorne, signing out.